DNA is really a product of time that I spent with the Lord. And the more I think about it, the product of my own life. 10 years ago, we launched our very first DNA conference. But it was 2 years before that I felt like I got the deposit for what it was supposed to be. I was at a prayer retreat with one of my best friends. All of a sudden, I saw this image of young women in a group, a large group of young women, and there was just ministry happening. And it wasn't all that detailed, and I wish it had, lines to follow. But I remember thinking it was odd because I wasn't in women's ministry at the time. I didn't really have an outlet for such a young women's thing, but I knew that it was a deposit. And I talked about it with my friend, and there was components of it that I could see. The conference was for young women, and it was about identity development. But there was this relationship with older women who would mentor and pour into and pray into that generation. It was kind of a generational exchange, and I didn't really have the words for it at the time. I remember after the retreat, actually I told my friend, and she said, yeah, that's the Lord, and so you better do something with it. And I was like, I don't really want to. And she said, it's too bad for you. So I got back from the retreat, and I started interviewing some young women who were a part of New Life, and just asking them, would you want such a thing? Would you want a conference, a ministry that would specifically cater to you, 18 to 30-year-olds, about issues of identity? And it was a resounding yes. And then just as quickly, it went away. So for 2 years, this vision was given to me. I thought we were moving with it, and then all of a sudden, I didn't feel like it was right timing. Until this life group, young adult women's life group, began. That was specifically catered to young women. And these older, more seasoned women were attending and functioning as the ministry component of this small group. And when I heard about it and it was flourishing, I felt like the Lord said, now is the time, because that's the model of what I want to do. And shortly thereafter, we launched our very first DNA conference. For 10 years, really, that's been the heart. It's been about developing the identity of young women to be found in Christ alone. We grow, we change. Things become important to us in some seasons and are not important in other seasons. And so we oftentimes, and I say we because I too am a woman, we latch on to things that are important, that find and give us value. But those things can change. And oftentimes the reflection of those things in our lives are really not accurate. The only thing that's the same, the only thing that's accurate is Jesus. I remember as a kid growing up, I sang. I grew up in a singing family. My family was very musical, and I sang all my life. And when I was 18, 19 years old, I joined a singing group, and I sang for the whole summer. And oh my gosh, I loved it. I loved it, loved it, loved it. When I got back home after that period of traveling, I had virtually destroyed my vocal cords. I couldn't hardly speak. I was in pain all the time. And I just thought I would just rest. But I went to see the doctor, and he told me that my vocal cords were bruised and there was nothing that could be done about it. There was no surgery, there was no treatment, there was no medicine. The only thing you could do was not use them. And there was no guarantee that I would get my voice back. And at that time, I was known as Tina, the girl who sang. It is what I wanted to do. It was who I thought I was. And I came to a crisis of identity where the Lord really was asking me, are you going to identify with something that I've given to you, or are you going to identify yourself with me? And it wasn't an easy fight. I fought hard. I wanted my voice back. I wanted to have that thing. But in the end, he won. Not because he coerced me or made me, but because in the end, I knew I was most loved and valued, not because of a gift, but because of who I was in him. And it changed everything. And so for every crisis of identity I've had to come right back to that place of who am I? Whose am I? It's not about the opinions of others. It's not about what I bring to the table necessarily. It's simply by who I'm made like and who loves me best. And when I'm centered there, all the other things follow suit. I think that's the heart of DNA. That's really what is in my heart. For anyone who will listen, I want to call out the fact that their identity, to be truly found, has to be found in Christ and Christ alone. I think that's the heart of DNA.